Dina Sanichar, a real-life Mowgli raised by wolves and found in 1872 in the jungles of India. In Tibet, a woman with more than 10 men was considered a desirable bride. Virgins were forbidden from marrying. Marco Polo said that Tibetan girls easily gave themselves to foreigners. Between the start of the war and August 1941, Hitler exterminated about 100,000 Germans with mental and physical disabilities. Iranian Princess Anis al-Dowliya had 145 fanatic admirers, 13 of whom died from depression after her rejection. Eyes that saw the nuclear explosion, Japan, Hiroshima, 1945. Vibrating bra for breast strengthening, 1971. Many women were convinced of its effectiveness. In the 80s in the USA, there were doctors who diagnosed by the smell from underarms. During the Battle of Stalingrad in 1942, the average life expectancy of a soldier on the front line was only 24 hours. A Muslim family eating oak leaves during a famine, Russian Empire, 1921. Future President of Lithuania, Dalia Grybauskaitė, working at a construction site, USSR, 1971. Memorial Cross for the Last Witch burned in 1657, Scotland. A village paramedic with a patient, 29 years old at the time of the photo, Russian Empire. The most common goods in the store window, prosthetics, post-war London, 1946. Public punishment of a baker who raised bread prices during a famine caused by flooding, Egypt, 1954. 5-year-old Lena Medina, the youngest mother in the world, holding her baby shortly after birth, Peru, 1939. A Gentleman's Set, 1640. Among the first 15 Roman emperors, only Claudius did not have love affairs with men. This was considered unusual behavior and ridiculed by poets and writers who said that loving only women made Claudius effeminate. This is a rally of Hitler's supporters in 1937. No rally in human history gathered so many people. 8 years later, in 1945, after Germany's defeat, they would claim they had never supported Hitler's ideas. Drinking school children learn worse than non-drinkers. Anti-alcohol poster from the USSR, 1950s. The oldest documented joke in history belongs to the Sumerians and dates back to around 1900 BC. It goes, "Since time immemorial, it has never happened that a young wife did not pass gas in her husband's embrace." A watch raised from the Titanic. It stopped at 2:28, 2 minutes after the crash. USA, photo from 1985. Hachiko continues to faithfully wait for his owner at Shibuya Station, Tokyo, 1933. Human hair in the German concentration camp Auschwitz, 1944. World Championship of Sitting on a Pole, Netherlands, 1971. The expression on your face when you win the jackpot, Australia, 1958. A 23-year-old man who switched from the communists to the side of the South Vietnamese government was captured by the communists and spent a month in a concentration camp where he was deliberately starved. The most dangerous notebook in the world. It belonged to Marie Curie, and it emits radiation, 1899. New York, 1958. Dancers at a nightclub playing chess. Smartphones had not yet been invented. A family portrait of a couple from the Netherlands, 1929. Copy. It turns out that six-pack abs and muscular shoulders were not always in fashion. In the early 1900s, fat men's clubs became hugely popular, mostly within the USA. Only men weighing over 200 pounds could join. 3 Jewish men, all of whom survived the Auschwitz concentration camp and were liberated on the same day, reunite 73 years later. Photo from 2019. Finnish blacksmith Pirtimäki stood in line all night and became the first buyer of a bottle of vodka after the repeal of Prohibition on April 5, 1932. Wounded British soldiers with trophy German helmets, France, 1906. Packed billiard ball sets made from ivory. The billiard craze almost led to the extinction of elephants, as often an entire elephant was killed to make just 5 billiard balls. German POWs watching a Holocaust film, 1945. The first test of the electric chair on a prisoner sentenced to death, USA, 1956. German soldiers greet Soviet tanks with flowers, Poland, September 1939. Protest against racial integration in schools, USA, 1959. The sign reads, "Race mixing is communism." A woman takes a big black cigar in her mouth, USA, 1924. A black boy drinks from a water fountain designated for whites only, USA, 1939. People used to be infected with malaria to treat syphilis. The high temperature caused by malaria would destroy the syphilis bacteria, and then patients were cured of malaria. A hysterical patient, 1893. This used to be called madness of the womb. Ronaldinho once said, "My father taught me that I needed to learn how to control the ball barefoot to better feel my feet. And I promised him that I would control that ball like no one else. But the truth was, he didn't have enough money to buy me shoes. When I won my first Ballon d'Or, I didn't cry from joy. I cried because I no longer had a father." Soldiers fall, income rises. Poster from the USSR, 1968. A woman asks for an autograph from a Titanic survivor, April 1912. Engineers and architects in the pre-computer design and drafting era, 1982. In 1979, FBI agent Hansen was tasked with finding a Soviet spy. The twist was that the spy was Hansen himself. A woman at the entrance of a museum at the site of the former German concentration camp, Auschwitz, 1981. Kiyoshi Ogawa, a kamikaze pilot who attacked the American aircraft carrier Bunker Hill. A pie eating contest, 1937. Afghanistan in 1973 and 2016. The king of paparazzi Rino Barilari became the victim of an incident in Rome in 1966 when actress Sonia Romanoff attacked him with ice cream for taking an awkward photo. An Armenian woman from Aleppo with tattoos indicating her belonging to a Bedouin tribe, 1915. Arab nomads gave her a choice: marry one of them and convert to Islam, or be handed over to Turkish soldiers. Children in New Year's costumes. On the right, a boy in the costume of a black person with a ribbon saying, "Independence for Africa." I'm not a camel, I want beer. Protest against the ban on alcohol consumption while driving, 1920s. Hyundai's founder paid for the shipment of 1,001 cows to his native village in 1998. He had stolen and sold a cow in his youth to buy a ticket to Seoul. One of Hitler's doubles was his chauffeur. In the photograph, he is to the left of Hitler. The driver often substituted for Hitler at various events. An army jeep in good condition, 1950s. Adolf and Rudolf Dassler, brothers, founders of Puma and Adidas. They hated each other so much that they didn't speak until the end of their lives. Germany wins on all fronts. Inscription on the Eiffel Tower during the occupation. Robert Earl Hughes was one of the heaviest people in medical history. In 1958, at the age of 32, Robert Earl Hughes passed away. At the time of his death, he weighed around 450 kilograms, 1,000 pounds. Emperor Nicholas II blesses Russian officers going to the Russo-Japanese War, 1904. Russia lost this war dramatically and suffered enormous losses. A timeless problem, the fight against excess weight. For example, Portuguese monks in the 12th century fought this issue by making a special opening in their monastery's dining hall, so that overweight monks had to fast. The world's largest monument to Stalin was unveiled in Prague, Poland, in 1955. It was nicknamed the Line for Meat by the people. In ancient times, Santa Claus would collect naughty children, throw them in his basket, and take them to the North Pole to serve him as slaves. This is where the legend of Santa's elves comes from. In Texas, a man was killed by a bullet that was shot at him 20 years ago. In 1883, Henry Zieglin was shot at but survived. The bullet only scratched his head and got stuck in a tree. 20 years later, Zieglin decided to remove the tree. By then, it had grown large, so he decided to blow it up with dynamite. The explosion pushed the bullet out of the tree, and it hit Zieglin in the head, killing him instantly. In 1952, at the Helsinki Olympics, Luxembourg's athlete Josie Barthel sensationally won gold. No one from the organizers expected a victory from such a tiny country, so they didn't have the country's anthem. The orchestra simply improvised. A cigarette holder for nudists, England, 1938. All war propaganda, all cries, lies, and hatred always come from people who will not go to that war. George Orwell. Police versus LGBT March Participants, USA, 1970. A North Korean propaganda postcard from 1988. The postcard depicts a South Korean defected soldier, his new wife whom he met in the North, and a Volvo car available to any decent North Korean. Before anesthesia, speed was very important in performing surgeries to minimize the patient's pain. Robert Liston was considered the fastest surgeon of his time. Once, Liston amputated a patient's leg in 28 seconds, accidentally cutting off his assistant's fingers. Both the patient and the assistant died from sepsis, and one witness to the operation died from shock, making this the deadliest surgery in history. Growth increasing exercise machine, 1931 photo. 6-year-old champion of a pie eating contest, 1916. If God exists, he will have to beg me for forgiveness. Inscription carved by a Jewish prisoner on the wall of a concentration camp cell. One of the most influential drug barons in history, Pablo Escobar, at Disneyland, 1981. The atomic grandma and her relative grandpa, Marie Curie and Albert Einstein, 1920s. In California in 1929, swimsuits were checked for compliance with decency standards. Native Americans mastering the automobile, 1915. A crawling toy, USA, 1871. If you misbehave, it will crawl to you at night. The Crisis in the USA, 1931. Gangster Al Capone was one of the first to organize meals for the poor and homeless during the Great Depression. A city nurse discusses contraception with rural women, Iran, 1960s. In ancient Egypt, makeup was worn not only by women, but also by men. Gold mine of Bald Mountain, Brazil, 1986. A dead miner's canary, 1875. Canaries were brought into mines because they were the first to react to methane leaks, warning miners of danger. The mummy of Ramses II, the pharaoh who ruled ancient Egypt from 1279 to 1213 BC. Nuns relaxing at a casino with slot machines, Australia, 1971. France's last duel occurred in 1967 between a deputy and a mayor after the deputy insulted the mayor in Parliament, calling him an idiot. People avoided casual conversations and were unsocial long before smartphones. Miss Italy knocks out Miss Sweden in an international women's boxing match in Stockholm, 1949. At the request of astronauts, a piece of rough fabric was attached to the inside of the lunar spacesuit's helmet so they could scratch their nose. Apollo 17, 1972. A charred but well-preserved loaf of bread, even the baker's stamp is visible, from Pompeii, AD 79. Lumberjacks posing on a giant stump of a sequoia known as Mark Twain in California, USA, 1891. A man among giant plants on Maui Island, Hawaii, 1924. Charging an electric car in 1911. Don't be afraid, boy, mommy is nearby, Italy, 1940. An unusual invention, a portable TV from 1967. Gargoyles on the facades of Gothic churches are usually positioned so that rainwater flows from the roofs through their mouths. However, one of the gargoyles at Freiburg Minster is holding onto the wall with its hands and feet, and water pours out of its backside. According to a city legend, during the construction of the cathedral, the city council raised the requirements for the stonemasons without increasing their pay. The stonemasons completed the work, but placed this defecating sculpture opposite the city council's windows. Thank you for watching this video until the end. I hope these photos impressed you. Some may have made you angry, brought a smile, made you happy, or perhaps even caused some negativity. Feel free to leave your comments and stay tuned for the next part. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Bye.